Booleans are one of the most important search strategies that you'll use when looking for information on your research topic. So what are Booleans? These are the small words that tell a database how to look for the words you've used in its articles or other material. These words are and, or, and not. You can use any of them or all of them in any search, and you'll use them by placing them between your search terms. You might notice that I've written all of those words in all caps. That's not by accident. Sometimes you can use them in lowercase, but some databases are sensitive to their case and will require that they're in all caps in order to work the way we want them to. The best practice is to always write them in all caps if you want them to be functional instead of just regular words. One great thing about Booleans is that they're used in many different platforms, including a Google search. Whether you're looking for a peer-reviewed journal in our database or Googling for a website, Booleans will be very helpful. Let's learn more about each one and what they do to a search. The first Boolean we'll look at is and. When you use the word and in between two search terms, it means that both of those terms must be included in every search result. This will narrow your search results, sometimes significantly, because if an article or website has one of your search terms but not the other one, it won't show up. Only items that have both search terms will appear in your results. Let's look at a couple of practice examples so you can see it in practice. The examples throughout this video are a little on the silly side because the goal is for you to have a good intuitive understanding of these words rather than focusing on complicated topics. Once you have these skills, you'll be well positioned to use these in your more serious research. Our first search is for dogs. We want to find dogs that are short and have upright ears. Our possible results are a German Shepherd who's tall and has upright ears, a Corgi who's short and has upright ears, and a Pekingese who's short and has floppy ears. Because we've used the word and in our results, both the German Shepherd and the Pekingese are removed from our results because they don't have both qualities at the same time. The German Shepherd isn't short, so she's eliminated. The Pekingese has floppy ears, so he's eliminated. Only the Corgi is left, because they are both short and have upright ears. We're left with only 1/3 of our initial possible results because of our use of and. It's limited our results. Our next search is for an airplane and boat. Our possible results are this boat plane, and this airplane. Both the boat and the airplane are eliminated because of our use of and. The boat isn't also a plane, and the plane isn't also a boat. We're left with only the boat plane. Now we can take a look at the word or. This is what's called an inclusive or, which means that either any term can appear or all the terms can appear. An exclusive or would mean that only one could appear. In this case, we're inclusive, so it expands our search significantly by allowing any combination or single term to appear. We're back to our dogs. Here we want them to be short or to have upright ears. The German Shepherd is included because she has upright ears. The Corgi is included because they have upright ears. They're also included because they're short. The Pekingese is included because he's short. You can see that this is very inclusive and has expanded our search. When we use the word and in between these terms, we had only one result. Now we have 3 results, so it's tripled our results. And here are our vessels. We're looking for an airplane or a boat. The boat is included because it's a boat. The boat plane is included because it's a boat and also because it's a plane. And the plane is included because it's a plane. Again, this has maximized our results. Everything is showing up from our possible results because we've used an inclusive or. Finally, we have our third word, not. You'll use not when you're trying to keep a word out of all of your results. You may find this especially helpful when you're looking for something that can be interpreted in a few different ways. By using not before a word used with the meaning you're not going for, you'll help to limit your search to only the ones that are most relevant to you. For example, you might be researching the American bison's migration patterns. When you search for bison, you might find a lot of recipes, which isn't helpful when considering their behavior. So you could use not to exclude recipes from your results. This could be a little confusing, so let's get back to our examples. Our search is now for any dog who does not have upright ears. The German Shepherd is excluded, as is the Corgi, because they both have upright ears. The Pekingese is left in our results as the only remaining dog because he does not have upright ears. Here's the same group of dogs, but now we're looking for one that's not short. The Corgi and Pekingese are both excluded because they are short. The German Shepherd remains because she's not short. Now for our boats and planes. We're looking for items that are not airplanes. The boat remains because it's not a plane. The boat plane is eliminated because while it's a boat, it's still a plane. The plane is eliminated because it's a plane. And one more example with not. Here we're looking for items that are not boats. The boat is excluded, as is the boat plane. It might be a plane, but it's also a boat. The airplane remains because it's not a boat. At this point, you should see that using different Booleans gives us different search results. These have been very simplified examples with only 3 possible search results and only 1 Boolean at a time. Even so, we can see how our choice in how we search drastically changes what results we get. In Google, the possible results are all the websites that Google has indexed, which back in 2013 was estimated to be around 30 trillion pages. That's a lot more than our examples with 3 possible results. Limiting your results out there in a Google search or in a database is the only way you can possibly sift through all of those possible results that aren't relevant to your current question. So now it's time to take a look at how these Booleans work in combination with one another. This makes them much more powerful than just having them one at a time. Okay, this search looks a little bit different. I'm going to use multiple Booleans, so I'm going to set it up like a math equation. I've put parentheses around certain words so that those are nested search terms. We are looking for either a dog or a cat. As long as it's a dog or a cat, we're happy. But now we'd also like that dog or cat to be either hairless or have floppy ears. In a way, we've significantly expanded our search with the use of those inclusive or words. To get a very different set of results, I can change and to not. Now we're looking only for animals that are either a dog or a cat, and are not hairless, nor can they have floppy ears. If I want to make sure the bird appears in my results, I can include or bird in the first part of my search. Since the bird is neither hairless nor does it have floppy ears, he can now appear in the results. In the same way, I can simply use the broader term like animal to include the bird. If I had goats and penguins in my potential results, they might show up too by using animal. I'm still excluding the hairless or floppy-eared animals in this search. Now, this is a completely different search with different search terms, but I've set it up so I get the same results. In this case, the animals need to be furry and have upright ears, but there's also the option that they can simply have wings and still be included. So here, the hairless cat and the Pekingese are excluded because they don't meet the first criteria of having both upright ears and fur, nor do they meet the second potential criteria of having wings. The bird doesn't meet the first set of criteria, but does meet the second option of having wings. This search targets the hairless cat to be excluded, but make sure to include all of the other animals. I've kept our previous way of searching with the parentheses. But actually, this search is identical. Since I'm trying to limit my search with an and, I can just keep going with that list of or terms. In this case, it doesn't matter to the search results, so it's dependent on what helps you think through your search and what you hope to find. Now, I want to show you how this will apply in a search in one of our databases. Nearly all of them will have this type of 3 search bar structure, with Booleans in between the search bars. You can select the correct Boolean from the list, but you can also type your own. Here's one of our searches. I want to find a dog or a cat or a winged creature, but I do not want any result to include hairless animals. This is the same search, all done within one search bar. This even works for a basic search with the single search bar, but you do want to be careful with your parentheses. Here's another one of our searches for a dog or cat with upright ears who isn't hairless. And here it is in a single search bar with the parentheses that will help us make sure that our creature will be a dog or a cat. One final note. I've been focusing on our use of Booleans here and not so much on our other search strategies. But when we use a phrase that should be searched as a phrase rather than as individual words, I'll actually put quotation marks around it to help the computer understand what to do with it. I've added those around upright ears, so it will look for that as a phrase. Finally, we have to ask why we would bother using all of these Booleans. The answer depends on what you need from that particular search. Using and or not will help you remove search results that are unrelated to your research. Using or will include more results, so you don't miss something that might be relevant, even if it's not comprehensive. Using and will require that more parts of your search appear in each search, which helps you find the most relevant sources. Using or can help you break up the constituent parts of your question. It means you can find information on any of the parts of your question, even if it's not all put together for you yet in a single paper. Finally, by using a variety of these words in different searches, it helps you sift through the results. It's so much easier to have several targeted searches like this and look through a few dozen results each time than it would be to get hundreds or thousands of results all at once. This strategy helps you focus on one aspect, then another aspect, and breaks down the process so it's not as overwhelming. I hope this has been a helpful video. Give Booleans some practice in your next search, and come to the library with questions about Booleans, other search strategies, and your research.